Hello and welcome everyone. We're here with Bow Live, brokers, opens, and tours worldwide, and Florida Closing and Escrow. John will be speaking first, and he is with Florida Closing and Escrow and one of the top 50 attorneys in the United States. Florida Closing and Escrow is the only title company based in Sunny Isles and also mobile, wireless, digital, remote, and assists you from contract to closing with residential and commercial transactions and helps the first time home buyer as well, answering any questions, structuring deals to close, and our deal makers, multilingual, mobile, and more. So, I'm going to give a brief market update after John speaks today about the new Miami law tenant bill of rights. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Cindy. Hi, everyone. I wanted to give you an update on this new ordinance that came out in Miami-Dade. It's called the Tenants Bill of Rights. I'm going to show you what it looks like by sharing my screen, and we're going to go through it. And then if you have any questions about it or you'd like a copy for yourselves, either give Cindy or I a call or send us an email, and we'll be happy to send it to you. So here is the new ordinance. This actually took effect in May 3rd, 2022 of this year, and it became effective May 14th. And basically, it requires landlords in Miami-Dade, so this is right now for only Miami-Dade County, landlords are required to provide this notice, it's a 6-page notice, to all tenants, whether they have a written lease or an oral lease. And we're going to go through what those requirements are. The landlord must present this ordinance or this Bill of Rights to tenants no later than 10 days after commencement or renewal of the tenancy. So I recommend actually sending out this notice with a copy of the lease, get the lease signed by all parties, and also get this document signed by all parties as well. Okay, so the tenant and the landlord are both required and acknowledged to sign this document. The landlord must present this document within 7 days of receipt, and the landlord must maintain a copy of this in their file for at least 60 days after the end of the tenancy. So what are the new requirements for this ordinance? See them here on the bottom of page 1. For all month-to-month termination of tenancies, the landlord must provide the tenant a minimum of 60 days fair notice in writing of termination for month-to-month tenancies. So we all know what month-to-month tenancies are, right? So you'll have an initial lease for a specific term, let's say 6 months or a year. If the tenant wants to stay more and the landlord's okay with it, but the landlord doesn't want to prepare a new lease, the parties can continue the terms of that lease month to month going forward. So the old law was either 15 or 30 days notice to the tenant. So now they've changed that to 60 days. And basically that's fair, especially in this market. It's very difficult to find rental units. So what this ordinance is doing is allowing tenants a little bit more time to find a new place at a reasonable price. The second notice requirement is for rental increases. The landlord must provide a minimum 60 days fair notice in writing if the landlord intends to increase the rent by more than 5%, either at the end of the lease, which is for a specific term, or during the tenancy without a specific duration. So at the end of, let's say it's a 1-year lease, 2 months prior to the end of that 1-year lease, the landlord must give notice to the tenant that they're going to be increasing the rent more than 5%. If it's less than 5%, the landlord doesn't have to give that notice. But if it's more than 5%, the landlord must give that notice in writing. And also, obviously, if it's for a month to month, the landlord must give notice 60 days, which is basically 2 months, that the rent is going to be increasing more than 5%. Those are the two big changes. And at the end of this document, I'm going to show you what those forms look like to give notice. If there's a change of ownership, again, if the landlord is going to sell, they have to give the tenant 60 days notice as well. And then there's two more for unsafe structures. If the building is deemed unsafe, the landlord must obviously give notice to the tenant. That's pretty obvious. So here's another requirement, which is also new for this ordinance. It's in regards to repairs. The tenants may make reasonable repairs to the unit for health and safety reasons. And they can deduct that cost of the repair from the rent. This is something new. A lot of tenants used to contact the landlord and they take too long or they wouldn't be responsive. So what this ordinance does now, it says, okay, if the landlord's not doing anything, and here are the requirements. The tenant must provide the landlord with 7 days notice in writing. So you're seeing the pattern of in writing. Everything regarding any legal issues or landlord-tenant issues must be in writing. So I recommend you as agents to let your landlords and tenants know, or if you're communicating with tenants or landlords, put everything in writing. Emails are the best way. Phone calls, no. Text messages, no. Put everything in writing. So the first requirement is to provide the landlord 7 days notice of the needed repairs. The landlord, if the landlord fails to make those repairs, then the tenant can get 2 estimates from licensed professionals. And those, you have to have evidence of such repairs, which is receipts, photographs, and similar documentation. And then the last requirement is you have withheld rent or a portion of the rent and provided 7 days notice to your landlord who has failed to maintain the dwelling unit in compliance with Florida law. So this is also very important. So this is for health and safety reasons. So now landlords can no longer ignore tenants or fail to make those repairs, because now the tenants can make those repairs and deduct it from the rent. Building conditions. This is also something for the landlord. This is number 3. The unit must generally include working plumbing and heating, and also be free from pests and have locking doors and windows, among other requirements. So that goes back to the health and safety of the unit. If it's not healthy or if it's not safe, the tenant can make those repairs and deduct it from the rent. And number 5, this is also something important for realtors to know. There's this new situation going on about Section 8 housing. Some scammers are calling realtors or landlords and asking if they accept Section 8 housing. The answer to that question must always be yes, because we cannot discriminate against Section 8 housing. So if you do get an email, you do get a text, you do get a phone call about a tenant seeking Section 8 housing approval, make sure to say yes, because we cannot discriminate based on income. All right, so prohibited acts, you can read through these, and then basically at the bottom of the page, the tenant needs to sign, and also the landlord needs to sign. Print the name, and then basically keep that with the lease, and then you'll be in compliance with the new Miami-Dade ordinance. There are some additional references here, contact, phone numbers, websites for the Housing Advocacy Hotline. Also needs to be included. It's a 6-page document, so make sure you include all the pages, not just the first 3 pages where the signature page ends. Some more contact information and resources for tenants and landlords to know, and that's basically the 6 pages there. So if you do need to, or the landlord does need to terminate the month-to-month tenancy, so let's say the original tenancy is over, they're continuing month to month, and now the landlord wants to terminate that month-to-month tenancy, here's the form. Basically looks like this. It's a fill-in form. You fill in the dates and times and whatnot, and then make sure that you present it to the tenant either by hand delivery or by posting it in a conspicuous place on the premises, and sign and put the phone number and contact information there. So this form we can provide you as well. And then the final form is the notice of rent increase. So if the rent is going to increase more than 5%, here's the notice, the written notice that must be given to the tenant. It's basically a form that you fill in. You can probably copy and paste this. It might be on Form Simplicity, so you can check there as well. Just make sure the landlord signs it and dates it, and you're good to go. So if you have any questions, or if you need any more explanation on this, or you'd like a copy of these documents, please feel free to contact Cindy or myself. And as always, we're always here to help you in any way we can.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Now I was going to give a brief market update. As most of you know, there's been another rate increase. On the bright side, Miami's predicted to be the second most luxurious real estate market in the world after Dubai. And the speed of interest rates has created a kind of whiplash among buyers and sellers, and it makes predictions kind of difficult at this time. Realtor.com sees home prices increasing 5.5 year over year in 2023, which is a very bold prediction since home prices have been slipping down across the nation, but housing demand still outstrips supply. CoreLogic forecasts a 4% home growth over the next 12 months, with markets in Washington, Oregon, and maybe Florida with the most risk of the price decreases, if there will be any. Market questions really do continue, with home buyers and sellers trying to make sense of the contradictions. There definitely has been some rebalancing, and demand has seized up, but again, supply is still low. Some prices have slided, but are not plummeting. And basically, no one really is agreeing on what exactly is going to come next. Prices are still above pre-pandemic level. And typically when prices increase, people don't believe they're going to go down. And when prices fall, no one believes they'll go up. So it's kind of like an uncertainty. We have seen somewhat of a slowdown, but yet sales still remain good. And I'd like to hear John's input on this.
Yeah, like you said, it depends who you talk to, and no one has a crystal ball, so no one really knows. The interest rates are definitely affecting the market. The good thing about us here in South Florida is we do have a stronger than the national market area, so we're continuing to see purchases. Obviously not at the same pace we saw earlier in the year or last year, but it's still a good area to buy in. People say, well, what do you think I should do? The answer is, well, you can always buy now if you're getting a great deal, and then you can refinance later. Once the interest rates eventually, I mean, they can't continue to climb as they're doing. So once they eventually stop and maybe go back down, you can always refinance. But at least you have the dream home that you're waiting for.
And we're happy to do the closing for the dream home and structure deals to close. And we're here from you from contract to closing. And we also have great marketing tools to assist you, to brand you, artificial intelligence, digital targeted, automated marketing, BOW, brokers, opens, and tours worldwide, and virtual opens. Sometimes buyers are not coming locally, so you can use these tools. And a lot of people still do buy sight unseen. We are still seeing that. We're not seeing the same level of bidding wars at all, but again, the market is still a good market, and we encourage you to contact us for any assist needed. And in lieu of the holidays, we want to wish everybody safe, happy, healthy, and successful holidays and year ahead. We'll be continuing with BOW, and we will appreciate any questions and topics you would like us to address. And even Gil Deser last night said at his holiday party that, sales are still brisk and predictions are always made to be challenged because they kept saying the market was going to, not be the best market. And then it outpaced all our predictions in the last year and a half. So you never know. And again, we stay on the positive track and we're here to help you. John, is there anything you want like to add?
Yep, since this is our last broadcast for the year, we want to wish everyone happy holidays and happy new year, and we'll see you next year.
Yes, and we're here for your title and closing success, and cheers, and to health, happiness, and success ahead. Thank you so much. I'm Cindy Mirapole with BOW, Brokers, Opens, and Tours Worldwide, and the liaison for Florida Closing and Escrow, 786-457-6832. And again, our goal is your success. Thank you.